Hello, dear Israel, Palestine, and Americans. We are in a semi ancient trap. To an extent, it is discernible. To an extent, simultaneously has not been addressed because only voices that speak for value the value progression of humanity as individual group slash differences or group differences and the species volume. Therefore, humanity's voicings is value left out how and why every modern nation was forced to be a part of economic systems still abridged. We were supposed to get the Constitution unabridged. For example, in America, we were not supposed to address the amendments without addressing why and how our founders had to counter extort to other founders at 13 positions with more than 13 colonies, entrenched themselves, divided themselves, already factory nature, tortured, extorted, and enslaved, also as countries grouped as the foundation of modern nations, suits and ties, counters and exceptions, as an array and collusions, having left out how we have black pupils, whites of eyes. We have the same color eyes, we have different color eyes. There are exceptions. Some people have the same, and the other species bodies have this design revealed by nature, as nature. Nature as a word for identity, for the same reason the identity of a verb needs additional names. We are hyper additional nature, where and how one identity of value slash value progression, its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that are only increasing equally, where and how it demonstrates also the value of truth before that, whether everyone agrees to it or not. If it was made up, it will demonstrate. If it's correct, it will demonstrate with positive value, nature, progression, action, nature. But we don't. We no longer have positive and negative as its course, which shows us five distinct identities of positive that it could be positive simultaneously, or it shows us how nature defines criminal insidiousness, nature of positive. Not even a lawyer. I could explain this better than adults when I was a kid without having these phrases and words. And we could understand how other kids could too. I understand how increasingly that is becoming harder while it's becoming easier other ways. Because it's an identity of hyper simultaneous nature. Part of its identity is a simultaneous nature law, greater than and more finite than all finite parts of anything or of everything at once, and all group parts. And as conjunctive, conjunction to the extent we know of our volume to come, that is already valued here, is a simultaneous. The ancients revealed English and the other ancient languages in demonstration of this. Is an identity of the ground electrical engineering conjunction slash hyperconjunction as our factory meter, as how reason works. Fake things have been stacked in databases vertically and horizontally through time. A breaching method, for example, employed confessions, sickly distinctly from how the church employed them, and how other modern religions too came after the campuses, after the countries individually grouped and together had already remembered their names used as systems tactical terror from why and how we are individual grouped differences slash s in species volume. Readings of the Quran and of the Old Testament have been maintained tactically, delusions wrought, and criminally foreign influence, sequence shifting, self value, and and within as natures of debate, I want to debate who's honest about their emotions when everyone's being dishonest, because emotions serve a function by nature, which is going to show all the litigation with words like function has been sick. What's it going to show we use the hyperscope of black people's whites of eyes? Exception, nature. There are three identities of sequence / simultaneous nature as a finite, active, as the extent we have control of this, and over the as its nature of because we have ignored the hypernative system, even because no one remembers it. And because this is a abuse of each age of fact, you nature consciously, vertically, and horizontally, each difference. This kept and keeps used remotely names in all sides of criminal and of civil cases, their lawyers, victims advocates, names of the hallways of the courts, names of the courts, switching names, forging names, putting fake things in databases, valuing that being having been done, associated with the value of precedents and of statutes, incapable of being defended or justified, and of affording defenses of themselves with debates regarding who would even debate in the first place. That and how the suburbs were designed for torture and extortion to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and to make the only means to cause positive value nature progressions is if they colluded with what had slavery entrenched North and South America, as our founders communicated, to have this communicated, understood. They communicated for us to not entertain the amendments addressed without addressing the increasing value of their extortion and of their counter extortion of our founders simultaneously. This takes a different relativity to truth, and especially where and how truths are used for lies. Truths are used tactically, delusions raw. When everyone's fighting, they're using psychology's words, psychiatry's words too now. Those are locations where they're putting fake things in databases, where how this breaching method employed this theater and fake integrity of manners. Watch someone try to say. See, they can't debate. Honestly, they've been the branches of government of every modern country, no matter how powerful a leader could get. Location areas and states are reliant upon simultaneously, increasingly, criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments, negative treatments, and names identity treatments, even though it hurts them the most. We left everything assigned as those employments by the breaching hyper employments by the breaching method that had nothing to do with employments. But what are they going to say if people start bringing up a breaching methods employments? They're going to blame on other things other than themselves because they're still roles with it. The breaching method knew that way to do that. Breaching method knew that our founders knew that they would blame on themselves. They could have to hide their roles. They communicated for us to communicate about this. We are supposed to address the extortion of George Washington honestly and telling no lies. And that brings up the torture of him and the method /S to it. And that brings up the fact human nature slavery, sickly distinctly against our founders, sickly distinctly against the founders they had to counter extort, and sickly distinctly against everyone else. And counted apart with our founders, part what gave them the power was Native Americans. That's why president /chief. No one's, everyone's divided. Everyone is conquered. Native American history shows that us that is American history. hyper additionally. They are hyper native. They were given additional. So we stays criminal insidious like Jim Crow laws. What's that about? It's about where and how. Deeper than they try to become a country. Yeah, equal. That's not about equal. Nature's about equality differently. These things are rising equally. Any subject you could conceive, you could discern, individually, any group of subjects, everything you're aware of simultaneously. Three ways it is possession of that, of each part of it. It is greater than and more finite than each part of each thing. It is connected. Just a solid nucleus, cell body, cell wall, slash S. The body of values coming through. The body of Christ. This is cipher, but it is also deciphered, to be deciphered. And what is by using what is said correctly. This hasn't been used. The first part of the Old Testament says the only part that has to be understood is right here, where the names of the sciences will come together. The names of the sciences will come together because the identity the sciences share comes together. Boxing. I teach us things. Species body longs to shadow box, by the way. Some pace, at least. Some rest. I tell it best. Boxing. I teach us things. Ancient times. Yin Yang and Alpha Omega were revealed to teach about the hyper invisible but still discernible. How it is five distinct identities of hyperpossession over the verb, over what it is in any sentence. That's why it has five names. How and why it could be used as an infinitive. That's exception nature that appears to be in demonstration of a sixth name, but it's really in demonstration of the same thing. /S, which is about the 1/3/5 identities of hyper simultaneous nature. In the opposite sequence, where and how we have to discern it both at simultaneously / hyper simultaneously per the relativity of where and how it makes more of itself and demonstrates this to us. See, but then we're appreciating the value of what actually we could discern. Telling no lies. What came truth is first. And we would have found out there's a breaching method there against every modern name, against every science's name. There are victims A through Z / hyper victims. And that it has had roles. It did the same thing to nations, all groupings of humanity, while they were being grouped in defense of themselves regardless. There were self-valuing uses of the names of the sciences, uses of the names of the elements of the sciences, like the word positive, the word / value, positive, and the value / word positive, because we're appreciating nature as value / value as nature. So there is a child abuse that every modern person went through, where American history and where other countries' histories were taught with opinions and convictions and theories and delusions, steered by uses of self-valued roles with criminally foreign influence, uses of the databases of the ancients from before the sciences became criminally foreign influenced. I'm not a lawyer, but we can get lawyers and judges help us. Human species volume. We know the suits and ties. See, we have forgiveness is so we can use correlation by all the ways. Everyone's guilty at once, and or that person or that group, and even if they're a majority, black pupils, even of the country, even if they're a majority of countries, they are sensed, and their fact-keeping nature, integrity is taken away, without them realizing self-value through attacks like the World Trade Center attack, where the victims themselves were also victim slash predator. Since before that, there were collusions with it. There were intelligence with all kinds of instances, treatments where there's a magic tricks going on. They're leaving out and making up details. They've been involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, for example, which is one of the things manifest, where how what it takes to discern the breaching method and what is actually recorded with history means correlation by all the ways. Every voice says, oh, in other words, how did they get away so long pretending that science spoke honestly for New York City? Science that's not criminally foreign influence. Someone said that's not tactic delusions raw. Someone that's only the only means for helps or reliefs, conjunctive reliefs, as collusions with the whole breaching method, the torture, extortion, slavery method that begins with addressing honestly the extortion of George Washington. And that's what it brings up. And that brings up the breaching method. And that brings up the hyper evidential, which comes with any voice that would deny this. So it's easy to get, because in other words, all location slash s. Everywhere a formal voice has spoken for the law, they were challenged to take part with predicate acts with facts. We could use the hyper evidential to show dishonesty associated with treatments of research regarding issues like how people are getting murdered in cities, what's the cause of it. Those locations, those names. For example, forgive us not blaming on them, but it is on some ways. They have roles with sick predicate acts with facts methods, torture, extortion method. Our founders communicated for us to be honest in this an honest and sane science, proper archaeological reception of ground, its conjunction to our reason with American history's elements like Wethersfield, Connecticut / Hartford. This is where George Washington had the force. Counter extortion at the last of 13. Counter extorted colonies within more than 13 colonies themselves divided to win the last battle of the Revolutionary War. But he had to leave slavery and extortion and torture entrenched, sickly distinctly north and south, overtly sickly distinctly against everyone. Our founders communicated for us to self-value that as means to show the enemy, not just against ourselves, not just against the enemies of themselves, to help us be ourselves, which is still not free, and others forced pretended. They haven't even explained Jim Crow laws, let alone slavery. You can blame the other things, others themselves. That was employed by a breaching method which deciphered what our founders communicated for us to communicate and understand before we did. So nature is a word that appreciates relativity to positive and negative simultaneously as a power of how we can discern its identity. just as how we have black people's whites of eyes, exceptions, the same color eyes or not, with the middle part, the exception part, and with the other species bodies, even insects. There is a consciousness that is more um, relative and relevant than can be afforded discerned by those associated with treatments of the brain, uses of their short words, let alone of their protraction, of their natures, of their motivations, narratives. Our founders communicated not to leave out the motivations of everyone associated with this preaching method. You guys have blamed again other things, others yourselves. And you have self, while you were doing that, you were self-valuing having been done. Boxing is fun. One way. It's out of box. Because we're in a sick system that has exercise. How do people in New York City going to exercise and be safe? Little girl, go run out in New York City. Go jog. Fear. So there's a one way hyper tribe, hyper native tribe. One way it could be right has to be all about admitting and helping counter syntactically for them, for Native Americans, their/our founding needs for them to get the identity of the ground, the identity of the ground's identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that, which requires the campus marcias, which requires use of its identity at other locations, because that's where we know if it's right or not. Not through systems that can't still playing, oh, because the market, that's our job. We were told it because the laws were taught wrong. The readings of statutes and precedents left this out. So people keep killing each other. Of course, in other words, look at that. Those cities, any city across the globe, the suburbs were designed tactically denatured. Everyone was factory nature, enslaved, tortured, extorted. It's to cause negative alienation. They write and be a landscape theater, while they means to cause positive alienation progressions more and more, but only if it more and more if it's collusion with uses of criminal insidiousness, natures of positive treatments, including especially, for example, many ways where we are factory nature. So that's what made the Native Americans fight with Native Americans. This thing was measuring what everyone could say or whatever around them, what everyone would entertain or not, relative to the to the method, the singular method of the breaching method that does it against a country's group too, because it uses the reactions or non-reactions and or use it /s or sciences criminally foreign influence tactically delusions raw, knowing nature is going to demonstrate that with nature's demonstrations of itself, the breaching method. But more and more the identities of law formally and informally that are kept used remotely, all sides in criminal and civil cases, private ones, and employments of the insidiousness of the logic of people A through Z. Oh, I'm about democracy, I'm about voting. Well, it's the values. We're supposed to get the Constitution on a bridge. We're not supposed to debate people and allow them to be used as pawns, getting involved in our conversations. They have the but in other words, they have the intelligence community criminally foreign influence involved with identity theft, slanders people. We're using psychiatrists' names, including ones with badges and guns at the same time. Little cowards. They can't speak online. And when and they switch names, forge names, and they commit predicate acts with a principal child abuser. So elderly homes positions at the same time, same name. VA locations, like the veteran, the policing of the locations, the EMS, their campuses, every campus. Now, say they tell people to make theories, so, and they use what's already typed fake in databases. All truths they use for lies. Not supposed to do that at courts. Courts have only been known to do this. We were not supposed to leave out what witch trials are about, trying to figure out and be honest about that. All we know is that they're about slavery. No matter who made them up or what, we know they were made up too. And they were about right where the last of the 13 places were counter extorted, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. Therefore, that which enabled us to become a country, to win that battle. But we had to be a country still entertaining slavery entrenched north and south, because there was a human fact, human nature, torture, extortion, slavery method, sickly distinctly against everyone. Where and how was also sickly not distinctly against everyone. It was also manifest that way. Where and how was manifest and is manifest sickly not distinctly against everyone. We don't torture it. I mean, we don't counter it. How it is manifest, how we could discern it, is as a against everyone. It is manifest that way as a identity theft, fraud slash slander method slash S. It's wire crime method since before modern phones, when we had the old wire phones. It's intelligent. It uses the volumes of the intelligence, the exceptions tied to them consciously, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and that insidiousness of the logic of people A through Z, which was reliant upon types of experts, like, for example, of the law and of English, certain type of victim slash hyper victim, where not only did they come through schools tactically employed more ways by a breaching method, some ways, than by our founders or anything good. So I loved all my campuses. But little kids know and can discern that we aren't free, how we aren't free. It's easier to discern if you know the history of Wethersfield, Connecticut, and of Hartford, Connecticut, and of the surrounding cities and suburbs simultaneously, and their roles with slavery, north and south. The Institute of Living was founded on the campus of Hartford Hospital. They've been catching in 1822, with slavery still entrenched, with other be still communicated for our founders about this. Then they asked. Before Trinity College was Trinity College, it was called George Washington College, reportedly. But this is a breaching method that puts uses of words like research and of debate, where it already used remotely the nature of debate, used remotely names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, news, predicate acts, planting evidences, predicate acts with facts, is one of the things that Jim Crow laws are about. let alone slavery. And slavery is a clear example of a human fact-keeping nature breaching method. The only reason this isn't discerned is because of this method that against individuals. There's a judge. There's a police chief named former retired one associated with or as a retired police chief now, and there's one with the name Cintron, who's involved with intelligence community intercities with people near where places where I live, and they were planting evidences a whole bunch of ways, but while being and having been used remotely, people associated with them. I never had a conversation in my life since I was a kid. These are people on off Harvard Hospital, on off the state corrections offices, which is right on Wethersfield, Hartford. How they have it right like that. It's on Franklin Avenue, in the street next to it. There's a Lance Cuddy, who's one of the I never had a conversation with in my life. I never had a class with him. I never even saw him around school in my life. I have nothing to do with him. Lance Cuddy. People in my sixth grade class made confessions tied to him. He's one of the ones involved with a former mayor Gold. I also never had a conversation with, who plants things in databases. There's other people tied to other mayors, and they have roles with former director of the FBI Robert Luskin and his lawyer Robert Chevrolet, and his co-defendant's lawyer themselves, um, Thaddeus Grabowski, one of the ones recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed on Fox Connecticut News, in the spots next to it involved with the intelligence community, like people with the name Mendez, with Wethersfield Police, with fake conversations with me, and as a kid, fake ties to me. I never had a class with Mendez in my life. They walked by me in the hallway one time. Someone said their name to me, with one of the ones who uses different names too. These are people involved with the principal child abuser, also with the kids and families that were involved with it. There are more Wethersfield police involved with it, and state police families, and courts and prisons families. They have roles with all kinds of cases already against criminal and civil, including with kids' cases, elderly homes. They have probate courts in elderly homes, in the VA associated with drugs. They're answering things with drugs. And they've been doing it so long, and they've been defending that. Their databases, they never stop being part of that uses of all location /s. Every where the human's body is. Now, if any leader, no matter how powerful they get, if all locations, areas, and states are reliant upon criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments with facts too, and or of negative treatments inclusion, because this is what where and how it is a shared self-value. This is where everyone's used remotely, or they sense that person, even if they're a group. See, we would have gotten through this if we had one person allowed someone to bring passions and emotions and be honest, not leaving out the smallest finite detail, not valuing others leaving it out, then be passions and emotions. And we would have gotten through and discerned the breaching methods, why and how. People could pretend that the presentations of which Jim Crow laws are about, for example, are legitimate, of what American history is are legitimate. It's not. How they debate that is not legitimate. No treatment of any. I forgot this is about Israel and Palestine. This is about modern countries. This is about how why the species needs us to be independent and simultaneously needs the opposite. because we are its volume. We are its volume science. The hyper simultaneous per science of pantheism. Pantheism more probably was a science, but it was one that demonstrably appreciated the difference between criminal and seriousness natures of sciences, abridged or not. So even the people who came through the best campuses and their parents, if they came through the best campuses, even better, and they're not even around anymore, still, that and the difference between the worst campus that was effectively needed and self already employed by the breaching method, having been self entertained, tactically delusions wrought, tactically criminally foreign influence factory nature quality aspects in nature. Nature again is a word I'm using for identity. For identities of value/value progression, and the only increasing value of that. And this is also relative to why and how. This I'm also using because of why the same reason why value has relativity to positive and negative simultaneously. The same way identity does. And again, as a value progression, where more and more values being more value as nature. And again, this is nature as value/value as nature. An opposite sequence nature. This is true conversely, slash hyper conversely, per where and how more of the 1/3/5 identities of sequence/simultaneous nature. Again, the finite, active, and progressive, they are bound. Progressive, not with some theater. Progressive as nature defines our words. The dictionary, I'm not a doctor. The dictionary shows definitions of psychopath that shows psychopath speaking for mannerisms and behavior on Connecticut news locations. Like there's a Dr. Laura Saunders, never met her. But her colleagues, she has colleagues, there's one named Zeman. He put a whole bunch of fake things. He's one of the ones with judges and prosecutors at various courts and their family members involved with crime scenes with child offenders, elderly offenders, criminally foreign influence uses of every body, individual, and together at veterans' locations, the locations next to them. So this breaching method knew that we are additionally ground identity, voicings, nature identity, voicing. And so, and there is a mean, but there's a value by each species. It has to be how we can discern. We're really trying to move and be a value as a species body, the extension of its body, that one that has all the species revealed this way. In other words, we didn't invent how everything is. How we are the same, we are distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously like the other species bodies are, same way. But they didn't invent it. We didn't invent a hyper simultaneous is there too per science. Hyper invisible but still discernible. It is the same one that has had five possessions, five distinct uh, hyper possessions as the one hyper possession over why, and that is why the verb has five names. Over why and how. The infinitive is about forever nature. The top of the Z, the bottom of the Z is about forever nature. This is one of the things it is constantly about. When it is about time, it is distinctly, it is non distinctly, and it is simultaneously time, but it is hyper simultaneously also not time. One of the things we can discern it at, While it is not time, while it is time, it is forever nature. It is making more and more of itself through temporary slash lasting identities, plural, of infinity nature, but as forever nature, as your complete identity is simultaneously greater than and more finite than all parts of your physical identity, finite grouped and together as they are actually together. Vaccine. It just things, your species body, long. So in other words, WFSB is in Rocky Hill. It has something to do with Rocky Hill. And there's and the families retired and standing that have been with the not just the police departments, but all aspects of them, including the ones with the kids, especially. But it's simultaneously people with the World Trade Center, people with insurance investigators, people with, in other words, all natures of investigators. Something to do with the corners of streets, like and these are people involved with former director of the FBI's co-defendants who are involved with sick people with and as themselves and their co-defendants and their family members. Also involved with uses of corners in their neighbors, everyone around everyone. They're attaching little kids through time more and more than as adults, attaching them to fake, changed conversations with strangers and with the people around them. And with the news at the same time while they're doing this with all sides in criminal and civil cases. They're lying about the outcomes of cases, other investigators using it. It's how they, for example, how they motivate good people to stay evil as one of the things, answers, the hyper evidential. That's one of the things Jim Crow is about, how they motivate people to hurt themselves and self value. In other words, free speech. Let me teach you American history. Church Street has names that live on Church Street who record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. There's a Mr. Neville. There's and the Neville family. And there are people that say there's people in a Potter family there were students of a Mr. Potter who are involved with all along Elm Street through time. Wells Road, I mean, through time. From the spots where George Washington had to counter extort the people. And where the witch trials place is. And next to there. These are also names involved with wire crimes with Weatherfield police with names near me that are involved further with the child abusers, leaders of the kids, proven and one's past. And then one's further too though. And it doesn't have to be that way, but they're coaching everyone to repeat fake things and to build on fake things already typed in databases, including them lying with the news about the outcome of legal cases. And they're bringing up the names of the people, the victims in the World Trade Center attack, because they're hiding behind them because they used them for predicate acts before the World Trade Center attack. Weatherfield police recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed people associated with them and their families, involved with the child abusers, leaders of the kids. They have roles with Keene family and conversations with them involved with my name. Their neighbors are involved with them. Like Alfonso is also involved with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso and other body dumping spots and killers involved planting evidences with them with the Dillon family and as the neighbors of the Kings. And they're involved with people with women with the courts involved with digital pictures of kids, little girls and sick things with them. All natures of bad things with them. Foreign and domestic military, they have collusions. It's why we're not safe. Before our founders were born, the suburbs were designed. We are not safe. We have the military is criminally foreign influence overtly. It's like, oh, but I was making that up. I was in the KKK. But kid, I don't know you, Justin Klavinsky. making fake exceptions. I never tried to contact him in my life. These are people planting evidences with this guy, Knapp, or people tied to him that say he's involved with it. And these Mendez families involved on all Fox Connected News with the FBI and various natures of federal criminals before they were caught, during it, and since, as people involved in a 2006 district court case with identity theft frauds, criminally foreign influence uses of names on all sides of that case, with former director of the FBI and his co-defendants, and people in the audience there also involved with predicate acts against me, as per the people involved and the people who say simultaneously pretend other. That's why they've been switching and forging names. They also post dated legal documents from inside the Ninth Circuit Court, right next to the World Trade Center towers, from inside the court, right before the attack, to make them think it was late. These are the same people with foreign and domestic medical families through time, whole bunch of different countries associated with these people. Like with Mr. Pruzzi and Central Connecticut State University has had roles with placements at campuses intercities and with military near me, criminally foreign influence, identity theft fraud. It's nothing personal. We don't even know each other. They're trying to make problems between people. Also, when O'Brien family did this, and a Claw family, and then they go have fake conversation, pretend they spread rumors with the FBI and other agencies involved with them. There's a filth, and through time they've been involved with people at Whiting Forensics, with prosecutors, judges, investigators involved with the crime scenes, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. There's a Leahy family that's been a whole bunch of people that work at Hartford Hospital, doctors, whole families, males and females working there together, involved planting identity thefts and frauds, fake transcripts, fake conversations with me about legal cases too, where they're involved with the federal criminals in the cases, and the federal crimes, including some including some that are involved with the former director of the FBI as a defendant, where the FBI can be sued, and they have judges involved with them where they can be sued, and they're hiding this from Judge Napolitano, and they're valuing the fake things they stuck in databases, and they're making it worse because they're not getting me a response. This is worse than extortion. So respond for Weathersfield Police and for Judge Napolitano too. In other words, make him understand what switching names and forging names is. Pick one name in sequence, get the Connecticut interbranch on the paper. Let's go, chop, chop. New York City was waiting too. These same names have roles with that. They said they will record, confess, demonstrate, confirm before Eric Klotz came to my school. Central Connecticut State University had effective confessions to me tied to that. People associated with him before I was in fifth grade also that was to confirm that they're making little instances of people that don't even know each other. I don't even know if he was in my class. Joe Demore, I only saw him one time on my school. He was involved with planting fake things in databases with a CM Faglione family and a Ray Claw and Tim O'Brien with Hartford Police and Weathersfield Police, New Britain Police, Newington Police families through time. People with the name D. Simone, a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Doctors, nurses. There's a guy named Britt who was people that worked with a guy named Britt who brought up the name D. Simone. And then he just said D. Simone. And there were other people there involved with them. And they're like involved with sexual communities, like gay communities and things like that. And then they pretend that's what people are complaining about because they have roles with a child abuser, with an O'Brien family. That's what that, in other words. And then everyone's a fake conversation ties to me when I was a little kid, make one fake exception. It's like a Joshua Julian. I never had anything to do with Joshua Julian in my life. His name was repeated to me by one of the people involved with the wire crimes of Weathersfield Police to make it seem like I know them. These are people are putting people to fake locations, fake ties to other people. I never had anything to do with South Seville in my life. I went to one Cub Scout meeting. No one said anything. It was like weird. In other words, and then it was the only then then were involved with like wire crimes too, with they're pretending it's little kid games. But in other words, so Richard Dombrowski has something to do with people involved with used him for and his family. I never met his family. Has something to do with the people with the Cub Scouts involved with wire crimes with other agencies and people involved with untimely deaths in the same house is involved with that 2 times. At Trinity College, they affected confessions to me about this too. There's a woman at Trinity College who used to sometimes like know where I was going to be at a corner. Never had a class with her. I don't know her name. I had her number at one time. I don't know what the police and the schools hid what they were not supposed to hide. What I caught the police doing, and I didn't realize that that's what they were doing, hiding it. And they were obviously putting fake things in there. So the police said that they have people associated with the police named like and courts and foreign bodies named Fred Guzet. He's involved with people involved with foreign and domestic medical corruption with kids, and judges and prosecutors involved with it, and their extended family members. And names near me involve planting evidences with them. That doesn't mean I ever saw them in my area in my life. They also sequence shift. That's how I know them. They pretend people that had connections to each other, and they went through time. And then when you're going to, I went to the next. You're going to go to the next school. They hide live progressions because they've been putting fake things in databases. Has something to do with their roles with the names that they have crimes through time with child abuses with adults at New Britain and Hartford locations. And now some of those kids are adults inclusions with it. And it's not legitimately protecting unmarked police forms, advocates, etc. They're out of their mind. You need to get them on paper and online because they're using wire crime methods, fabricating transcripts with WTNH, WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, roles with World Trade Center predicate acts, New York City. Please follow mandated law. These are CNN sources. CNN has men and women with the intelligence community involved with also their intimate ties, even if that was made up because they have the right to lie. They've been using the right to lie with they don't. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with sequence shifts and 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 with criminally foreign influence uses of investigators, and of the training of them, and of their campuses, and of their homes, and of their family members. Christopher Walters is one of the people I only know who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed every once in a while he would plant evidences. And he was influenced to bring up various natures of organized crime as collusions with people involved with that, who blame other things like people who were involved with proven pension thefts. There are people with the name Thaddeus Grabowski, Charlie Conch, and Dominic Lapriata, who Weathersfield people recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with predicate acts with them on campuses with overt criminal enterprises too, times, planting evidences, identity thefts and frauds, uses of the right to lie about other people during union elections, timed uses of those lies, and then um, fake verified at corners of buildings, as people were involved with corners of streets with the witness protection program, and people, a whole bunch of people tied to Joshua Stryker and Joshua Schumack, involved with judges, involved with child offenders, identity theft, fraud, evidences, crimes, and with prosecutors, and with KKK themed, black themed child abuses, elderly abuses. These are people with elderly homes. Also, the families who were involved in predicate acts on my street with Weatherfield police, not even realizing because they're forcing everyone to roll. They make people use each other's names since they were kids. and then they lie about the motivations, pretending passions and emotions. That's one of the things. Many people that work with the Britain Superior Court have criminally foreign influence roles with people from Wethersfield who have used my name with them. Criminally foreign influence. They've been planting evidences in the hallways of courts. The Connecticut District Court is involved with them. With all sides in criminal and civil cases, victims, their courts appointed advocates, the names of the hallways of courts. These are also families that are with fire departments. People with the name with the FBI recorded, confessed, and demonstrated confirmed involved with people with the name Pierce, like a Jody Pierce, involved with a Demorrow family and a Cololo family, involved with wire crimes and child offense abuses, elderly abuses, all sides next to the on off the state corrections offices, on off with names on off the state judicial branch offices. Wethersfield Pizza, there's a Steven Stocco and a Maria Fazzino. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with them with wire crimes in Wethersfield Police and the other police departments. They have roles with people at Central Connecticut State University, also intercities involved with them between campuses. I never saw Maria Fazzino on a campus in my life. Stephen Vasacco was in a campus. I was in a classroom with him. I had anything to do with him. I never partook in the bullying of him. That seemed like it was orchestrated apart. I knew Paul Zana was planting evidence all the time. I never had a word. I never had a conversation. My conversation with him, he verified to a officer that there's a Mark C.M. Paglione, and there are others involved with a Leahy family involved with drugs and medicines, crimes with kids, and with police putting fake things, using truths for lies, putting in databases, spreading things about people, and as roles with foreign bodies using all sides in criminal and civil cases. They have Wethersfield town offices increasingly involved with the military, involved also with switching names with these names involved with this. So let's get going and get a response for Connecticut Interbranch. Have them fix the fake news. It's not just fake news; it's news predicate acts. The news people must get lied to yelled at all the time for lying, and because they also have to get yelled at all the time for not lying, because they're supposed to hide lies and they're supposed to not lie. Tactical terror from the way they're doing it. They're supposed to follow mandated law too when people report things. So they're preventing things from being reported because the police chief Cintron has his extended and intimate his daughter involved with this. Also, per the confessions of a John Maiano, who's also involved with sequence shifts and evidences planting, identity theft, fraud, slander, and through time, and as the people involved with the World Trade Center attack with him, and with medical corruption, foreign and domestic, all along Elm Streets and Wethersfield and Rocky Hill, as people involved with the World Trade Center attack. Follow mandated law and change what I said to a conspiracy theory, because that's one of the things they made that the World Trade Center attack was effectively used for, and to get people to pretend that we want torture when it was only to hide their roles with torture since founding. Takes a lot of torture, extortion methods, and fact tribulation slavery methods, plural, used by a singular one, to have kept New York pretended liberated so long. Maxine Straw. Please tell Judging Freedom, the Judging Freedom YouTube channel with Judge Napolitano, to follow mandated law for Connecticut Interbranch and pick one name in sequence for them. They can say they're sorry. I want a name for the Wethersfield Police too. I want them to pick one name in sequence. They have roles with people at Rocky Hill campuses too, involved with sick things, with intercampus history with Central Connecticut State University, with the FBI and other agencies, involved with Luigi, who my Saudi friend recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, is one of the ones involved. On and off Central Connecticut State University with a Scalora family /S, slash IES. There are also the ones with Weathersfield police involved with other police forms, planting evidences involved with child sex offenders, medical offenders. There are people with dentists. There are proofs that there are dentists involved. It's involved with the shootings that was reported something to do with dentists in Weathersfield and that place on off Town Line Drive. Town Line Drive has roles with intelligence community increasingly involved with names increasingly connected as ones that planted evidences. I mean, planted fake things in databases. I figured out it has to do with evidences too, though, but it's way worse than that. From other classrooms, they have connections to predicate acts on my street from other parts of cities and uh, and other parts of city as they have connections to Covington Street. People on Covington Street next to in New Britain recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they have roles with wire crimes of names on my street and in my area. There's a Kyle Gill and Tanya Gill, and she has I believe her last name is Cologne now. Now these are police forms from military from Middletown too. They have intelligence community with Middletown involved with intercities with foreign and domestic military that have roles with overt criminal enterprises, not legitimately with unmarked police forms, not legitimately with their cultural treatments. That have this juxtaposed with where and how their identity is law, undercover or not, wherever they are. They can't speak for the law. That's why Jim Crow laws have not been used to explain about what slavery was about, which is about the breaching method, which is also about the method, which employed people blaming other things, others themselves, for what it caused, which is increasing. It, and nature is increasingly demonstrating that. There's a breaching method you guys better value. Because Earth's a special difference. Because our special difference, Earth is staying here. So we took too much of it away as it's lethal ID, forced, space nature transfer. Its identity, its identity of relationship to itself. We could value ignoring its a special difference, which is hypernative pure, but it will force it from here. But it will demonstrate it. So it demonstrates the increasing value of the difference of Native Americans who are already hyper native. Everyone's hyper native. And their conjunction to and as the value of chief, as it is really value. So you have state criminal insidiousness of value. So there's a chief Cintron and a chief Knapp of Weathersfield Police Department. There might be other retired police chiefs from Weatherfield involved with the same houses with wire crimes with them, switching and forging names, as timed collusions with other police forms and their family members, and their roles with the sense and sensibilities and the syntax of people anyway. Positive, negative sequence treatments. Follow mandated law for the. I want a response for the principal child abuser's confessions, and for those also I'm I'm referring to as confessions by the news media. They attach me to fake conversations with themselves. There's a Roger Suzanne who has roles with stories along Route 3 with kids and people they just say got beat up or whatever, real or made up. He's involved with people on that's right near the state judicial branch offices. Increasingly, those are people involved with criminally foreign influence uses of the kids and of the names of others. Make sure he says sorry to those kids, parents, to that kid and to his parents and to the rest of the viewers, and separating me from the fake conversations he had with me, and he had with me pretending me with others too. And others pretended through the mail that with them, and he did through wire crimes. They have wire crime methods with their phones too. They're playing hear no evil, see no evil, have other people do the phone. They're planting evidences at crime scenes even preemptively. It's nothing personal. They're pretending it's personal, so they can leave out the functions of emotions proper, where it is personal. In other words, where they're trying to force it to be personal. I, the only reason I'm referring to that is not personal because there are foreign bodies involved with their sources and as themselves criminally foreign influence, logic, and delusions relative. Delusions that wouldn't be naturally. People wouldn't be so delusions raw. I'm using actual examples, like why and how you guys left out the black people's white survivors. That's part of it, is your delusion. Why you left out the breaching method at the same time when you bring up serious things like what Jim Crow laws are about, what slavery is about, what James Madison's about, what Marbury versus Madison about. Means get down, fake branches, bow, get down and fall. And there is found the seed, build wall. Why do you think the borders are manifest? Syntax, subject treatments, ties to all these other treatments, drugs and things like that. Already the locations of the interbranch, the prisons tied to them, the state offices, the schools they went to, they're already used remotely. Already from other locations, from those same locations when they were at those schools. There were live progressions from those other locations. There are identities of the law that couldn't speak for integrity, they had to pretend other, as a breaching method knew they would. They had to compare themselves to other using using difference that wouldn't have been if it wasn't for the Native Americans. It was already entrenched too deep. The method, it would have been way, way worse than it is now. Species going extinct. Less and less worms in the soil every year. Almost has, some people probably no worms. It means for the worms, it means for the birds. Worms used to walk into wet, freshwater bodies of water all the time, even when it's not raining. It's raining. Oh, now there's no bugs at the top of the surface. Now we have a worm supply. Nature provides. It shows how to make positive value nature progression. Acts in nature as evolution's fruits and gifts, as means out of nowhere. A breaching method became a mimic of the system. So pantheism slash hyper-pantheism can be used to interpret the worlds of religions more sanely, and it can catch them where and how uses of them criminally foreign influence, logic, and nature self-value. God provides for me, and I'm successful monetarily. Stop leaving out what our founders communicated about the employments of the economics by the breaching method. Then we'll get to the economics. Follow the law. Respond for the principles of confessions and the rest of the names recorded involved, with what I caught them doing, and with some of the parents being police forms and skewing the difference between that and the difference between who they have fake conversations with me since I was a kid. Now, Harvard Hospital has intercities roles with sick people speaking to the kids and with judges that are sick with the kids, collusions with them, how they're getting away with it. So you have to stop their methods, get them on paper, and I'll show you the delusions and the fake things they've been stacking in databases at different locations, and they need to hide that there. That's how they're used remotely. They're shown that, even with the positions they have in life. It's interreligious spots too, because they have criminally foreign influence. They have fake conversations with people about religion, and then they pretend they have unrealistic takes on religion. They have the whole fake conversation to do that, to get away with it. These same tactical delusions are out with their religions and with the nature of their people, with their logic, where they have atheists. These are also people involved with the difference of that used by former director of the FBI, where he's been planting identity thefts and frauds with names on Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College, as names involved with predicate acts on my street and syntax tied, where there are exceptions that appear that that's not true. It's through all kinds of ways, all kinds of hyper evidential things recorded. Having black pupils, whites of eyes, and exception nature is hyper evident. Having had the breaching method left out, even though there are means to discern it, is hyper evidential. Even how someone would even try to get away with debating that is hyper evidential. We have to get our peaceful means to counter, because these are people who rolls with poisons. So there are people involved with the Wethersfield Police, Harvard Police, and New Britain Police. They use bug spray, and they use other kinds of poisons, and smelling, and like there's no way that the smell of a skunk was that many days in a row near a Paul Kelly's house, all along Route 3. There's a Paul Kelly, and his neighbors are involved with the intelligence community, planting evidences with the wire crimes with WTNH, WFSB, and Fox Connecticut News at crime scenes next to their buildings too. Fear. Follow Mendy law for them. Fix the fake news. Get me off the fake conversations. Say sorry to the people and get on paper. And I want a response for the principal's confessions and what they hid from the people about the untimely deaths on and off Trinity College, and the roles with the dentist, because it's tied to that shooting, because it's tied to that spot anyway. Even if it was made up, the shootings of the people associated with the dentist and on off Town Line Drive. Those people have roles with the intelligence community that have been planting fake identity theft, fraud, slander, fake instances totally, and ones with fake other instances they can't be honest about because they're recorded other than they pretended, as their roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, with all natures of the law. Sick. So we're in a semi-ancient trap. So people are hurting themselves pretending other. That's in other words. That's why in Israel and Palestine they're killing each other. Now it's not as a side go, oh, okay, we're even. Say, no, in other words, we're even. We're being hurt by this breaching method. This makes people fight with each other because they go, oh, this person said this thing. It makes and or the difference of be just to leave out the foreign names, increasingly consciously involved. So when I was in second grade, little kids recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There had been things that demonstrated there had been men and women who had spied on me when I was in first grade. And then they had their kids from I didn't even know them or the kids. Use that to spread lies and sequence shifts, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me and their kids, as the ones involved in the Britain Superior Court, like a Brian Silver and Hartford Courts. And the Brian Silver is one of the prosecutors involved with the Leahy family, planting evidences with the FBI and Wethersfield Police, Harvard Police, Newington Police, Rocky Hill Police, military police, foreign police, foreign military. Has something to do with their roles with names all along Hangdog Lane and Two Rod Highway, who used my name. They're involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with a Dillon family, also further involved with predicate acts on my street, with the people involved with poisons, incredible gun threats and knife threats, intercities connected, and confessions uses. And these are people using confessions strictly distinctly from the church, but these are also people using the names of the church could be foreign influence. Some of them may have been child abused. I mean, I know that everyone was child abused, having had other communicated for our founders than they have communicated for themselves. And again, this is appreciation of the founders who had to counter extort the other founders and how they had the means to it, not just because of the Native Americans, too, because the crazy breaching laws were against everyone in ways they didn't want, and everyone had fear of it, and everyone was not supposed to break those rules. But so they counter-extorted and forced them to break the rules. Then it was too late for them, so they had to rely on our founders. But they still had to stay roles within slavery entrenched north and south. That's why they had to make them fight in a native way, north and south, about slavery while they're still entrenched in it. They're still entrenched in it. We think New York City is about slavery, fear. Follow mandated law for the World Trade Center attack, for the World Trade Center, and for the court next to it, and with the Weatherfield with the Weathersfield Intercities Connecticut to branch. Let's go, chop chop. Let's go. Come here, New Yorkers. New Yorkers. They're not going to show the people of Connecticut because they keep running in with the FBI. FBI type people are. I've been writing in my Facebook, my YouTube. One with the name Kalal was one of the ones with wire crimes in Weathersfield Police, involved with the principal child abuser with Phil Kalal, further involved with sick things on my street with child offenders. And I don't know other names yet. Let's get going. Let's get it on paper now. Let's go. And make sure you get those police off the schools, the school resource officers. The program's obviously going to change now. We don't need it to be on paper before we're going to change it. Man, move. Make sure I get a response from the Board of Education too. Have them say sorry to the other ones, like the ones with the name Stocco and the ones with the name Faenza and Fazina. Have them say sorry to the rest of the people on the board and any of the ones that live with this with this Emmett. There's an Emmett who is one of the ones further in quarters involved with sick things with the kids and with delusions relative and with intelligence corruption, intelligence community. They have roles with unions, also recorded and their families involved with criminal enterprises with the same ones. So we're going to address this fear. But don't hide behind a badge now.